everybody, to a wonderful episode of Sip and Chat with Charlene and Shree. And tonight we have a wonderful guest who's going to be helping you be able to start preparing if you're thinking about selling your business, or what are things that you need to keep in mind if you want to sell your business. But before we get into that show or into our guest, Charlene, tell us a little bit about you and what it is that you do.
Hey everyone, I'm Charlene Brown, the brand misfit, and I help my clients not only build amazing websites, but learn how to use them properly. A lot of times we are building sites that stay online just to die, and there's over 85% people who have sites that are just not doing anything. So don't be one of them. If you need help, contact me.
And I want to say hi to everybody who's joining in. Dr. Deepak, Denise, thank you for joining in. And my name is Shri, and I'm a video marketing producer. I help entrepreneurs create engaging videos that make them money. So tonight's guest is all about helping business owners utilize their businesses to generate wealth, focusing on identifying and executing opportunities to increase business revenue, profitability, value. I could go on, but I rather just let our guest come up, and that is Damon Pistulka. I hope I said your name right.
Oh, you did awesome. You did awesome.
And
Yeah.
and maybe in the background, Odin will come around and say hello.
Yeah.
And
He might be.
we also have a co-host named Shadow who sometimes makes guest appearances.
Sometimes.
They do. They do. You got to be ready for it.
You do. Hello, Jay. Thanks for joining in. So, Damon, before we get into all of what you do, what drew you to mechanical engineering?
Oh, it was funny because when I went to college, I didn't know what I was going to do, and a counselor said, "Well, you don't know what you do, but you grew up on a farm, so you probably want to go into farming." And and if I was at a big agricultural school in South Dakota, and I was like, yeah, in the first semester, I'm like, this sucks. I never felt like that was my calling for me to move back, and I met some guys that were in my dorm room or dorm in the dorm floor, and that were in engineering, and I had no idea what it was. So this is me going to college, right? And I had no idea what engineering was, but I said, well, I'm gonna try to do it. And next thing you know, I found something I really liked, uh, and I had no idea how hard it was going to be. I had none of that stuff, right? And another long story short, I was not a great student, not a great student, but I really liked what I got to do when I got out. So that was fun. And when I figured out manufacturing and making stuff and seeing people doing that and all the different things, and um, I really was intrigued by it. It just drew me in. So that's how I got into engineering. I've always been kind of a science geek. So but if people told me you had to do all that math and physics and all that other stuff, I wouldn't do it again. Figure out some way else, another way to get into manufacturing. But
Well,
I
are
enjoyed
you
it.
using that math that you
No,
learned in
no,
engineering with manufacturing?
no. I've got a book over here, or get online if I need to look up something like that. But I haven't used the vast majority of that. I'd say it gives you some good basics, right? Because in my advanced coursework and graduate work, I did a lot of statistical analysis, and I don't know why I barely passed the class as an undergraduate, but I got A's in it when I got into my graduate classes. And I really like that, and I've utilized that an awful lot over the years in some of the businesses I've been in, but I don't use hardly any of it anymore. After I got to the point that I was running businesses, I really didn't use a lot of the engineering work, other than some of the organizational management things. But when you start to get into leadership, I really don't think that there are any degrees in college that teach you, how do you lead people? How do you lead a business? How do you organize? There's some organizational management stuff they can teach in college, but until you really understand what the market demand is, and then how I'm going to create an organization that's not just pumping out a product or something or doing something, but really meeting the needs of the market. That's always been that's where I think in my mind the engineering and the business come together, because when you can take a business from end to end and go, listen, we are going to solve this market need and do it better than anyone else. I don't care what industry you're in, there's a way to do it. But when you find that and you put that business and the people in place and the structure and the process and the right, give the right people and lead them and give them the autonomy to do what they need to do, it's a beautiful thing. Just a beautiful thing. And that's why I love what I do in the businesses now.
I love that you brought up leadership because my daughter's in college and these are things that, like you were saying, they're not really talked about. You
No.
kind of just don't know what you're doing. So, if let's say
Mhm.
you're talking to somebody who's new in their journey of leadership, what are some maybe books or courses or even podcasts that you would suggest that someone should look into reading?
Don't know the podcast well enough, but I'm gonna tell you there's a few things that there's some people that started writing this stuff thousands of years ago, right? If you go back and study uh, people that philosophers, but move forward to at least in the last century. Um, you look at things like Stephen Covey started it out back in the 80s. He was talking about things, the 7 habits of highly effective people. There is one thing in that book that I tell you, if you look for the third alternative, because when you're helping people working together, solving problems, if you forget about it's me or it's you, and you think about, I don't know the best, and you probably don't know the best, but together we're going to come up with a third alternative that's better than either one of us could have imagined. If you really truly do that, I think that has been a fundamental thing for me in my life, is and to be able to go into a room, right, with a bunch of people and go, we have all these different opinions, and with no one being right, it's so much fun to be able to see what the collaboration brings. And that's really what leadership is. I think leadership in business, if you are a leader in business, if you don't feel that excitement when you're bringing people's brains together, hell with everything else, right? Because all that other stuff will come. You will be profitable, you will be innovative, you will do all those kind of things when you get people's brains working together in a business, and not just you as an owner or as the top person. You just take yourself out of it, other than focusing on helping those people work together, because they're way more talented than you are, or you don't have the right people with you, or they're more talented in different ways than you, if you're part of that. But that is the coolest piece in business, because you will sit back and you will go, oh my God, they just did something that none of us thought we could, or created something that none of us thought we could. And when that, then the real thing after that is, because everyone has created it together, they're going to do it. Even if you have problems, they're going to figure out how to do it. And it's just, that is the thing that I think leaders, if you can get that and really facilitate that, and understand that your job is to do one main thing, and that is to be a positive influence that facilitates that kind of work, collaboration in your business. You don't have to worry about the other stuff. Yes, you're going to have goals. Yes, you're going to have all this stuff. You got to do all that, lay out annual stuff and do that. But really getting down to the heart of business is that is so. Back again, Stephen Covey's great. You look at some of these other ones, in the past, there's all kinds of them. But when I look at the real thing about leadership, I think it's working on yourself more than anything. Because as you become a leader, you realize that you have to be a better person to be a better leader. And face it, we all grow up with, I shouldn't say not necessarily traumatic, but screwy things in our past, right? Things, maybe it was a parent thing, maybe it was I was bullied at school, maybe all these different things that are could drag us down. And if we can't get by those things in our mind, we can't truly be free to lead others. And it's something that I didn't realize until not many years ago, how much that really affected, and how much difference it makes. I see people way younger than me realizing that and working on that personal development, because what they're working on means they're going to be able to get where they are tomorrow. Um, because where you're at today is because of what you were yesterday and what you are today, and really what you can change yourself to be is what you're going to be tomorrow. um, that leadership, the personal development, and reading a lot of those books. I mean, there's so many people that are so damn smart that wrote all these, these things down. It's there for us. We just got to read and then use.
And I
Yeah.
love how you said that, the personal development comes into play, because a lot of companies were going back and forth where they were removing the human out of it. They
Yep.
were really they weren't really using, like how you said, bringing everyone else's brains together. They weren't using it for that. They were just bringing everyone together, then getting the ideas and then not giving the team the credit. They would just use it for self glorification. So there was a lot of missteps that's been going on in leadership that's also been passed down
Oh
throughout
yeah.
leadership. So different organizations are wonky in different areas. So how is it that as leaders, especially if we're going to start preparing our businesses to sell them, how can we set the foundation where we're actually embedding a lot of these cultures and these behaviors for self-development, but not just self-development, but continued self-development, where we're funding that as well, because some organizations don't even fund that. You
Mm-hmm.
have to do self-development on your own if that's what you want. So
Mm-hmm.
how can leaders set their businesses up to do that, support that, and then make it even more attractive for a sale, a profitable sale at that?
Yeah. Yeah. It does start with, I think, some foundational things with your teams and your people inside. And again, there's so many things that are written in spending money on leadership. You don't realize the impact until you start doing it. And it doesn't take a lot of money, right? We have clients that have book clubs. They take an hour a week with their leadership team and meet on book club. They might do it over lunch or something, but they're reading a book. They're going through it together. Pick a great management book or a leadership book that you want everyone to read. Because I've got clients now that are in the healthcare space with tons of PhDs and MDs and all this. They know nothing about leadership. They know how to diagnose and treat and all those kind of things, but you get that leadership aspect in it, and get people on the same plane. That's the start of it, and really start working through that, so we get some common understanding. And then as you look at how do we develop this, take these leadership principles and put them into something that turns into a valuable business, I think you really have to think about the framework of how your business is set up. Because there's some, again, like I wasn't planning on reading talking about 1,000 books, but Traction's a real simple book that gives you an operating system for businesses. You don't have to use it 100%, but if your entire leadership team reads it and you go, okay, we know what the book says, and let's go through and do a book club on it, but how are we going to use it here? So we have a common frame of understanding, and then we begin to implement things like that says, okay, here's what this person or this role is in our business, and this is what this role is. So we really understand. And then do we have the right people there? And then are we leading them appropriately? Do they know what success looks like? This is one of the biggest things that we see in companies today is like, listen, if I come to work, if I know what success looks like for me on a daily basis, and I say, whether I'm doing whatever, I could be programming code, I could be taking the trash out, I could be doing whatever. If I know that I have to, if I program 1,400,000, I don't know what the right number is, lines of code a day average, or I finish this many modules of coding, or as simple as if I'm Damon's the janitor today, if my job is to empty 47 trash cans, and I know I do that at the end of the day, and that's what I'm supposed to do, and that's laid out for me, I go home feeling good at night. It doesn't matter what it is. It literally does not matter what it is, as long as you're using something to lay out what success looks like for people. Because then we have a baseline for everyone to go, all right, if I take out the trash like Damon's supposed to today, that helps the business because everybody else then doesn't have to worry about it and they can do what they're supposed to do. And then if they're doing what they're supposed to do, that helps the next person that's doing what they're supposed to do. Right. And we've laid that out so we can really understand, and it gets very clear for people, because then I'm not thinking that, well, am I supposed to take the trash out or am I supposed to program code today?
Hmm.
And that's what we get a lot of. We get a lot of everybody wants to help with everything. And that happens in the beginning in small businesses. You have to do a little bit of that, but as a business gets bigger, you really need everyone needs to understand how they fit in and how they work. And when you're talking about preparing a business for sale, this is where it gets critical, because when you come into the time of selling a business and you're the owner and you've got other people that are in your business, if they're all doing everything, a little bit of everything, what does that look like from the outside person who's going to buy your business? What does Damon do? What does Shree do? What does Charlene do? What do they do? And if we can say, well, they do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, well, that's too ambiguous for somebody that's going to come in and try to figure out your business and decide if they want to buy it. So the more you can have it delineated and go, hey, Damon does this. This is how good he's been doing because he checks off that he empties his 46 trash cans every day, and he's done it every day for the last, year. And I'm pretty sure he's going to do it for the next year. Those are the kind of things that gives buyers confidence in the fact that the business has been performing well or consistently, and it will probably continue. And if people can articulate that and it's laid out well, it's much less risk for that buyer.
Yeah, and I just started reading Traction, so
Oh, good.
that's very interesting. But
Yeah.
yeah, I remember through my organization, they were, selling, and every time they went through that moment, it was a resituating of roles. Everyone had to try to figure out where do they stand now, what's their titles now, what's going to happen now. So having clarity too, especially when you're starting to, if one company is going to merge another company, if they keep a lot of people, they have to figure out where do all those people in all those positions reside within their own organization. Do they need to create something new? Do they need to
Hmm.
strip other people of titles? And it becomes messy after a while. So i'm
Yeah.
glad i'm glad you were saying delineate.
Mergers are messy. There's just, I don't know any way around it. They're messy. If you're selling your business and it's selling to somebody else that's going to run your business kind of like it is today, but under them, those tend to be less messy. But I think the people that really understand how to do mergers correctly are, you know, back in the old days when I was in college, the mergers and acquisitions you used to talk about, we were pulling companies apart, they were pulling them apart and, making more money, all that kind of stuff. Those people that try that are largely not successful. I mean, to combine two companies together and say, oh, we're going to get so much operating savings on our administration that we're going to make all this money, they're just, yeah, you do a little bit, but if you're doing it for that reason, it's the wrong reason, really. You should be, if you're thinking about cost reduction rather than value creation, I always think that acquisition strategy is just short-sighted.
Mhm.
Um, and getting the people involved that really go, okay, how do we make this 1 + 1 = 3 if we're doing a merger or an acquisition, rather than how do we cut costs out of it? Because that to me is never a um, you never make those, you never make money on it like you think you are. And when you see an acquisition, you go, oh, you've got this great painting company over here and I've got a great uh, drywall company or whatever the heck it is, and now we're doing drywall and painting inside of a house. The same jobs, we're bidding on two different things now, instead of, and we all have our independent customers when we start, right? But now we can bid on all those same customers with both of those things rather than one or the other.
Right.
And then those are the kind of things where you really see that you get some economies of scale and some really fun things that you can start to do, because now you go into people that are like in that situation, you go into people that are building houses or building apartment buildings and you go, yeah, we can do all the painting and the drywall. And then you go, okay, what's our next acquisition? Well, maybe we need a plumbing company, because then we can, the plumbing is in before we get the walls, and we get that, and you start going in those things, and you just say, this is the way you create, by acquiring other businesses emerging. That's the way you create value, is really think about what really is going to be better for the customer.
Mm-hmm. What are some things that, if you were to make a checklist, what are some things that you should keep in mind if you are wanting to get your, you want to be acquired or you want to sell your
Yeah.
company?
Don't be too involved in the business.
Mm.
That's the first thing. First thing. Well, just think of it like this. Had somebody call me today, a doctor, got a nice practice. They're the doctor in the practice. What happens? What happens when they sell? The doctor's gone. The only person that can buy that business is a doctor that knows exactly what they do in this market and thinks that they're going to be able to maintain some of the patients or something like that.
Mhm.
It's no different if I've got a marketing business, if I got a plumbing business, if I got a coating business, whatever it is. If I'm the brains or I'm the hub, there's people call the hub and spoke. If I'm the hub of the business and everything has to come through me, the value leaves when I leave. You got to be able to go on vacation a couple weeks and things not fall apart. You got to be able to sell without you. Yeah, you might have to come for a big deal close or something like that. But if you're in the daily grind of selling or the daily grind of getting things done, you probably are not going to sell your business. And I talk to people like that all the time. And I literally tell them, run your business a couple, 3 extra years and shut it down. Don't try to sell it, because selling a business is very hard. And on the average across all businesses, there's only about 25% of businesses that are put on the market get sold. So 75% don't. And really the thing is you understand, have I created a business that's got value independent of me, the founder, and that someone else can step into or would want to step into? Because yes, I can have a really valuable business. It can be valuable outside of me, but if I hate it, if it's in an industry that's dying and we look dead and old, it doesn't matter if it's making millions of dollars. It doesn't. You just aren't going to sell it. And that's where you really want people to take a look at and get themselves out of the business, let it run without them, get some growth going in the business. Because as we see a lot of businesses, when people get to a certain point, right, they go, and we were talking about before, my kids are out of school, right? I'm not paying for college anymore. Do I need to make as much money as I did when they were in college? Not as much. No. So maybe things, and people, you see this in business, right? They're working, growing that business, and they get about, and then it kind of flattens off, and then it just kind of sits like this and it runs like that. And that flat line's great if you've been in that business for 20 years, because you're not trying to pay for the, pay down debt or whatever that you paid to buy that business. But to the new buyer, that's like, it's like buying, just think of whatever car that you'd look at and go, that car is, yeah, it'll get me to work, but there's no way I want to drive it, and because on the other side, looking at it from the buyer's perspective, you look at that business, go, yes, the owner took themselves out of it enough so it runs pretty well without them. But the next risk you're going to go is, what happens if? The buyer is going to ask this, because the risk profile for the buyer coming in is much different than the person selling the business. The person selling the business has been there a lot of years, and their risk is built up over time, but they've also paid down all the debt or whatever that took them to get there. They've built it up slowly over time. Now, when I go to buy that business, say it's $1 million, I'm going to cough up $1 million. So I'm just, bloop, here comes $1 million. I'm laying $1 million on the table. And so they're going to be thinking, what can go wrong? I'm putting my house on the line, or I'm throwing whatever. So what can go wrong? Well, if my business is dependent on 2 customers, or one customer is 75% of my revenue, or there's just all these different things that come in. But customer concentration is the biggest thing that we run into. And you can build a wonderful business off of a handful of customers. Like here where I'm at in the Seattle area, in the aerospace industry out here, right? You can be a Boeing supplier and have a wonderful business, but they might be 90+% of your business. Well, that's factored into when people buy those businesses. They know that they're going to, they could lose a contract, they could do that, and finding another contract to replace it's very hard. So, starts with the first thing is getting the buyer out of it. Second is reduce like customer concentration, supplier concentration. Those are the two things that really run into it from a business standpoint. And the third thing is really and this is before you sell the business, get comfortable with the value you're really going to get. Not what you think you should have, not what someone has promised you're going to get, but get real. Because if you can't get real with what you're going to get for the business, and it's really simple. I've actually got a webinar that's coming up in April. It's going to go over how to value your business. It's this simple. First of all, ask yourself this question. Would you plop down the money you're asking somebody to do? Would you do that today, knowing how hard it's going to be to pay that money all back? Yes, imagine yourself younger, but would you do it again? Would you do it again? And would you put all that online? Would you sign your house over? Would you do everything you're asking somebody to do and put that money down in the business? Ask yourself that question. But then really get comfortable with the fact that I'm going to get this much, and what I want is nice, but what I'm going to get paid is more a matter of math and how risky it is for that buyer. It's simple because banks put lending restrictions on people if you're going to use an SBA loan to buy a business. So what they say is it's anywhere, there's different ratios, right? These financial people use ratios. So they say that you have to have 1.4, 1.5, I think that's debt service coverage ratio. Don't quote me. I have a partner that does all the financial stuff. And what that basically means, if I'm going to take out a loan, it's going to cost me $100,000 a year for that loan. I have to be able to pay myself. I have to be able to pay to grow the business and pay and have $150,000 left over because I need 1.5 times whatever my loan amount is for that year to do it. So how much is somebody going to be able to pay for your business? It's pretty simple. You just go, okay, how much of a wage should someone expect to take out of this business? How much do you need to grow the business beyond where you're at today? And then how much is left? Work it out on a 10-year loan for an SBA. It's whatever they have. I don't even know the percentage rate, 8 or 9%, whatever it is now. It'll tell you how much you're going to get paid for your business. You don't have to go pay for a valuation to get close, but that's what you're going to get. I don't care if we've got all this. If we went over here, we could do all that. What a buyer's going to say is, well, why haven't you then? And why haven't you? If there's market opportunities are out here just plentiful, why haven't you gone down that road? Why haven't you got down that road? And we hear that a lot, and it's really the value comes down to math. So preparing and understanding that early is really important because, again, if you're not going to like that number, don't even start. It's a pain in the butt, like I said, to sell a business. You got to put all this stuff together. You're going to have to talk to people, or you're going to have to work with brokers to do it. It's a pain in the butt. So get real about it, because if you don't like that value and you got the option to run it 2 or 3 extra years or 4 years or 5 years, maybe that's the best thing to do. Because you can plan it. You can plan it out. You can close things down. You can sell off equipment. You can do what you want to do and go out the way you want. because we talk to a ton of people that have tried to sell their business and they're so frustrated they didn't sell their business. It's like, do you really need to put that extra stress in your life sometimes? Or do you run your business a few more years? I know that's totally contradictory to what we were going to talk about, preparing a business or sale or something like that. But, I just think you should be real with people. And it's not the only option. It's not the
Right.
only option. And, you got to know what you really want to do and what your business is really going to do for you. That's why like 5 years ahead of time, or even if you're even longer ahead, if you're just doing that little calculation going, hey, how much loan can my business support right now? And it's really simple. It's like I said, 1.5 times, how much would I take out of the business? How much do I need for growth every year? And then divide that by 1.5, what's left over. And I'll tell you how much the banks are going to say that you can loan on that thing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And for some people, they're building businesses in hopes that their kids will take over. How realistic is that, to create a business in hopes that it will stay in the family? Because, like you said, if what if you don't want to do it anymore? What if they don't want to do it at all?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
how does that look? How realistic is that to create a business with that in mind?
I think it's a little bit under 20% go from first to second generation. And I think it's about 3% go from second to third. And then after that, it kind of levels out. So it's not very likely that your kids are going to take over your business.
Hmm.
It's in bigger businesses that, what we see sometimes in bigger businesses, if you have it big enough to where you can go, okay, listen, I'm the founder. I'm not going to be involved in the business anymore, but it's making enough money. We can hire a CEO or somebody that's, pay them whatever they need to pay, and they're running it. We're making millions of dollars a year. We can support our family that way. I see people doing that from time to time because they'll do that. And honestly, then the children can work in the business they want to or do something else, but it's still creating wealth for them over time, and they'll eventually do whatever they do with it after that. But we see that to extend the owner's life in a business rather than transition to a younger their kids, or even sometimes you'll see them where they set up a board and they do hire these people to run it, and the board really helps oversee the organization so it continues to generate wealth as long as it's a viable business. But the straight up thing of, I started my whatever, again, coding company, plumbing company, whatever, and I think my kid's going to take care over it. It's really low. It's really low. So
Yes, yes. And I'm in awe a little with how a lot of these younger companies, they're building it they're building their businesses with the intent to sell. So a lot of the social companies, social media companies that we see, a lot of digital companies that we see, that's their whole purpose. So when they're doing all that work ahead of time in their early stages, their whole premise is they're building the blueprint for when someone takes over, they can say, here's all the assets, here's everything that we've
mhm.
built, here's the list of people, because now information is so important and so valuable. So if
Yeah.
they can capture as much information as possible, they see that as value to the company's wealth. How do you see older companies, or maybe not as old companies, trying to capture the same premise, or follow that same type of blueprint?
Yeah, when we work with SaaS companies, and been a couple fintech companies that we've worked with that it's amazing the values that they get for them. And it is the data that's the value. They scale easily. If the buyers really believe that you can scale it the way they can, if the market's there, that data, that formula, that is worth a lot than just to be able to do it, because it's a completely different thing than scaling a physical product where you've got distribution and logistics to work out and those kind of things. And that's where the values go much higher. And it is data is becoming more and more valuable in any business. I don't care if you've got a 100-year-old manufacturing company. If you don't know who your customers were for the last whatever 50 years at that, then who's still around and who you're still selling to and all that kind of stuff. If you're a 100-year-old manufacturing company, you're not nearly as valuable as somebody that does that, understands that, and understands all the latest things that you need to be doing in the digital space to be doing the right things. It's night and day, and buyers pick it up in a moment. I mean, as simple as this is you can walk into um, a very successful company and you go, how does how do your Google reviews do? Oh, we don't worry about that. We've been around for ever. I mean, well, what's the first place a buyer's going to look when they start to look at your things? What's Glassdoor look like? I've never been on Glassdoor. I don't even. What is that? And it's like I don't mean to sound derogatory. I'm sorry. It's just it's not part of the normal. But when you look at it, that data, that understanding, social presence is another thing. It's like, well, we don't sell on social, but the world sees you on social. How do you look? It's all these things make a difference, and that data is huge. And staying abreast of it, and really knowing what is at least considered relevant in your industry. I mean, if you're not at least there, you're just you're starting off way behind.
Mm, I agree.
Yeah, so much there. And I'm telling you, the Google review is real. I mean, it's that simple. I can tell you how many people that buyers come in and said, or trying to tell that to someone selling a business. What do your Google reviews look like? Oh, we don't look at them. I said, well, you need to go fix that. You've got this on. Well, that's someone did that, and they're blah 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 blah. Especially if they got a bad one, right? Oh my goodness. But if you have 150 reviews or 200 or 1,000 reviews and you got a few bad ones, no big deal. But yeah, all that data makes a difference.
Mm.
And now cybersecurity. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. That's another big topic. They're like, every buyer comes in and is going to ask, what are you doing for cyber? I mean, how do you stopping people from doing this? And if you go, oh yeah, we don't worry about it's like we've two clients in the last 5 years that got hit by cybersecurity attacks. And they're not big companies. This is not like $1 billion companies. These are people that like us. They get they wake up one morning and they go, we can't log into our servers. What's that? And they get that screen of death that says, hey, you get to pay us. So all these things make a difference. Again, it's risk for buyers. They're looking at all these different risks that it's built up over time for that person in the business. It's so different for the buyers.
Yeah, so a lot of the prevention can help make you more attractive, showing that not only did you care, but you're giving them something that they don't have to start from scratch most often.
Yeah. Yeah. You can just have the stuff started. I mean, even like social, right? Well, and two, there's the other thing, right? People are going to look like me, maybe selling the biz. They're going to be older, right? They're going to be in their 40s and 50s selling businesses usually, and or 60s. And when you look at it, the person buying it is a much different. I mean, they much different when you look at social, when you look at digital, when you look at how they use their phone comparatively. If you're not setting up like that, I mean, that Charlene and Sri, that from marketing, right? You got to know your buyer. And it is just like, it's the same, but only the stakes are so much higher. So why the hell don't people just take it to heart and go, I really got to understand these people. I really got it, because it's millions, it could be millions on the line. And it's that's all I can say is if I'm marketing this cup and I know my customer really well, I think if I'm doing something worth millions of dollars, you should know them a little better. And
Yeah, because you definitely have folks that will say, oh, I get on my clients word of mouth and
yeah,
referrals, and then at that same time, you're like, that's great, But if someone else is coming in, are those same referrals going to still trust that new person and give them that same amount of business? Like, is not, can that really translate at the end of the day?
You hit it right there. You hit it right there. It could work for me, but it ain't going to work for you. You got to make something that'll work for the next person.
Yeah.
It has to. If it doesn't, it's just it's like I said. It's just not worth. You can have an awesome business and decide not to sell it. But if you want to sell it, you need to know who's buying it and make it attractive to them, and make sure they can pay you the money that you're going to be at least accept for it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just want to say thank you for sharing all of these gems. I was over here taking notes, and even in the comments, they're like, this was really what we needed to hear. There's so much to think about when you're selling your business and the steps and just things that we don't, some people know, but some of us are like, whoa, these are things I need to start thinking about from day one.
Yeah. Well, and you said it, Charlene. Some of these people in these SaaS companies or these other startups, these later startups are doing this. They're thinking about these businesses differently. And you see the way they build the businesses. They build the successful ones. Some people just blow a lot of money, but the successful ones, they really build good businesses from the beginning, and they're thinking about that value. And they're not thinking about, they're just thinking about that in a different way. And it pays off. It pays off.
It does pay
So
off.
yeah.
So, what are some amazing ways to connect with you and be able to book you because you know what you're talking about?
Well, uh, you, it's the best thing to get on our website, exityourway.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's cool. Um, but honestly, the I get a lot of messages in a day and a lot of connection requests. If you do connect with me, make sure to send me a note because I just don't. It's a lot of connection requests every day. But our website's actually got a link on it. You get on our website, you can book a time with me on there, exityourway.com. And that's the easiest way to do it. But if you reach out to me on LinkedIn and we connect, I get you my scheduling link and you'll get on there and we'll talk.
Definitely let him know that you saw him here with Sip and Chat with
Yes, and
Charlene
sip and
and I.
chat. Well, I'm telling you, this is like a dream come true to talk with you guys. You guys are famous. I mean,
What famous?
serious. Yeah. So I mean, it's cool to be on with you guys, and
Thank you. It's awesome
Thank
having you.
you.
thanks so much for having me. I know I I'm very passionate about what I do and helping people because the worst thing I hate to see, and it makes my stomach turn, is people work all this time and put a business together. And yeah, Ken, I know Ken, he's a good dude. And you get to the end and they go, oh, I'm going to sell this business and I'm going to walk out, and someone feeds them a line of bunk that says they're going to do that and they really aren't. And they go down that road and the frustration and the different things. And you can head that off if you think about it earlier and prepare, or just decide that it's not for you.
Mm.
And it's good either way. It's good either way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
yeah.
Charlene, you have something coming up this weekend. What is that?
This weekend, I'm doing another struggle site rescue strategy day, the 11th, which is Saturday. That's going to be 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., 3 hours of us going through everything. And I added a nice little section to go a little deeper into not just content, but layouts for your website. So we're going to talk about a lot of that. And I have amazing people that's going to join on
Nice.
Saturday. So if you guys want to head on over to strugglesiterescue.com, join in. There's still time. You have a few more days left.
Well, definitely take advantage of that. And if you are thinking about starting a live streaming show or podcast and want to go through the process of what it's like to do that, I definitely am looking for 5 coaches, consultants, entrepreneurs who are ready to take on that challenge. It's a 12-week coaching program. So if that's you, you can sign up. I'm looking for the next five, and I'll drop the link in the comments so that you can see if that's something you want to work further towards. And any last words for us, Damon, before we end for the night?
No, have a great week. Enjoy it. Take the. Oh, I do. I do have one set of last words. Quit taking yourself too seriously.
Hmm.
All of us need to do that.
Yeah.
If we realized how much our ego screws with our lives, it's amazing when you go, is that really something I should worry about, or is it just me and my ego?
Yeah. Very true. And we end up stressing ourselves out.
We do.
Yeah, way more than we need to.
We want to say thank you to everybody who's joined in tonight, and we're looking forward to our guests next week. And thank you, Damon, for joining us. And until our next live, have a wonderful evening or morning wherever you're tuning in. Bye.
Bye, everyone.